Good Murmuration morning.
It's
Wednesday.
Okay.
Good morning to you, Jeannie.
Good morning to you, Blake.
We're going.
Good morning to you out in YouTube land.
How rude of me not to say good morning to all of you who
Yeah.
are joining us today. We're so
Joining us
happy.
this morning for our theological discussion on a Wednesday.
So, we are going to finally pay some attention to
Our friend
Pizza Paul.
Pizza Paul.
Pizza Paul on the wall. But wait, before we moving, I need to speak on behalf of all of those people who don't have a real warm fuzzy for Paul.
What?
And so Miss Potato Head's kind of back here sticking her tongue out at Paul going, yeah, not real wild about some of the words you've written, Paul.
Well, I think that if you are a woman,
Yes.
if you are gay,
Mm-hmm.
and if you are black or have been a slave, either are now or were recently or your family had, then there's going to be things that Paul has said which you will take umbrage to
Yes.
and feel uncomfortable with. But I think we need to think back to how it is we read the Bible, because a lot of times, even just reading it on the top level, if you hear something that Paul says that's super harsh about slavery, or about the role of women, or about lifestyle practices, and you just go, what? And you don't finish reading even the letter, then you'll miss out, because a lot of times it all winds up at the end that he's making a point by having said those things, and that's a rhetorical style that was common in sort of the Greek Hellenistic world that we don't use anymore. So part of it's just finish reading. Don't just get hung up on something and say, oh, I hate this guy, and not finish what he was saying.
Well,
okay?
I'm interested in what you're saying because I haven't gotten quite there. However, I do know that Paul speaks some other words that I really like. And I've been concentrating on those in the last few years. And it kind of makes me go, I can't really totally throw you out and cut you off.
Can we bring him
closer? So come get closer with us, Paul. We're going to try to figure you out some.
This.
And there's a...
Paul.
I found a poem online, and it was written by Alexandra Cooper. And the poem is titled Shame. And I think some of the words that we've wrestled with Paul and what you're trying to talk about does kind of make the shame bubble up some. Anyway, her words are, where can I go where no one would judge me? Where could I be normal like I was in my dreams? If there is a God up in the sky, why won't God take this burden of pain so far out of sight I can't see it again? Until then, all I feel is shame. So I think that's what I want to address, this idea of shame. I've lived with shame. A lot of people live with shame. And how can we start talking about Paul?
Well, I mean, first we should say that shame is different from guilt. I mean, when we've done something naughty or something bad, we might say we're ashamed of it. But that's more guilty. We feel guilty about it. We wish we hadn't done it, and maybe we say sorry, or maybe we hold on to it. That's guilt. It's not a pleasant feeling. Okay?
No.
But we are conscious of what we did that we don't like. Shame is bigger than that. Guilt is saying, I've done something I don't like. Shame is saying, I am someone I don't like. And shame involves other people putting it on you.
Other people giving you this definition?
Yes, and other people, whatever it is that you did or whoever it is that you are, if you are really experiencing shame, then then you're feeling a brokenness that's you're a mistake. Not I made a mistake. I am a mistake.
You feel that's
it's
a
much,
truth
much
in your
deeper.
life.
Yeah, and it involves other people. Other people would agree with that because for whatever reason something has been set up. And I don't want to geek.
I'll hold Paul for a little
you'll
bit.
hold Paul for a little while.
Yeah,
Get a little
we'll
close
have
to
Paul here with us. She's gonna get geeky on us. She got all excited about this discussion of shame and went to her Greek.
Well, I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect in a way to be thinking about this during Holy Week because what it is that Jesus went through with the crucifixion was a way in which the ruling army, the Romans, shamed people, shamed the culture. I mean, the whole act of crucifixion, it didn't just happen to Jesus. It happened to many, 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 many people, not just in the ancient Near East, or Palestine, whatever we want to call where Jesus lived, but all over where the Romans occupied, because it was a way of showing power by shaming the people, by breaking them, and crucifixion was a torture. It was horrible. They were hung naked in front of everybody to die a long, slow, agonizing death.
And it was very public.
It was public. So it was definitely shame. And Philippians 2 is the Christ hymn is an example of where we see a word used that really is quite powerful in that it's shame. If there is any encouragement in Christ, any solace in love, any participation in the Spirit, any compassion and mercy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, with the same love, united in heart, thinking one thing. Do nothing out of selfishness or out of vainglory, rather humbly regard others as more important than yourselves, each looking out not for his own interests, but everyone for those of others. Have among yourselves the same attitude that is also yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God something to be grasped. Rather, he emptied himself, taking the form of a slave, coming in human likeness, and found human in appearance. He humbled himself, becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. And it's the word humbled that I mean, we think of humble as, oh, I'm going to be humble. I'm not going to be like real proud, like, my hair's awesome, or I'm quite clever, but I'll be humble and I won't let people know that. The word in the Greek, which I'm not going to pronounce for you because I'll be bad at pronouncing it, but it doesn't really matter that you hear the word. But if you translate it from the Greek, the word is now I can't find it. Is shame. It's not that he was humbled. It's that that he was made low, publicly made low, publicly brought right down to which the woman that wrote that poem is saying, if there's a God, release me from this feeling of being so just worthless. And the answer that she's asking actually exists already, and Paul helps us unpack that. Because Paul says, look, shame stops you in your tracks. Shame makes you wish that you didn't even exist.
So
Christ knows this feeling.
I want to, I had a lot of the information that you're telling me about the Christ part of the story, yet I experienced shame at the depth that this woman has experienced it. And yet Paul and part of the church has spoken certain words that make it hard for me to let go of the shame.
Right. Well, go and use your midrash then.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm doing.
Seek.
But this is why I'm saying why this is so important for you and for us to get new words, to claim new words about Paul.
Right.
Because Paul has been used as a bully club in some ways.
And the Bible and Paul never. Yeah.
And these beautiful words are right there alongside Paul.
Right. Well, I would go further with it and remember that the rhetorical way of writing oftentimes you need to understand that before you can really understand what it is he's saying. But Paul, I love you very much, because Paul, in this letter to a church, I mean, it was to Philippi, it's Philippians, to people that were being persecuted. He was writing a letter to people who were being killed for their faith, being tortured for their faith. And so that also changes this whole thing of kind of humble yourself, but not. Basically, he's saying that that Christ knows, that Christ was there, and that Christ is still there for you in those moments where your shame is just taking over, and it releases you from that, because Christ went through it and rose again with this incredible joy and hope, bringing us one with God, atoning us to God.
Which is God. My midrash this past Lent has helped me to understand salvation as being God's ultimate way of listening to us. And when you're filled with shame, the one thing you want more than anything is from someone to listen to you and to hear your story, so that you might discover something else about the other person and yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty.
You and not judge you as being unworthy, but to forgive you.
Okay, well, we got a good start with this Paul character. And
Paul on the wall.
Paul on the wall. We might discover some things different. I want to keep talking about him from time to time and reclaim some new understanding and words that we can...
Paul's awesome.
Yeah, that we can maybe get to that point where we say that.
Fabulous.
You're fabulous.
Yes, and you're fabulous.
Thank you for getting geeky with us
today.
Have
a great day, and forward this to anyone who wants to be geeky about Paul.
Forward anybody that needs to hear that no more shame.
No more shame. No more shame. So, have a great one.
You too. Bye.